Good morning. This is John Sakowitz and Jay Johnson. Hi. Good morning, Jay.
How you doing, John?
We have a great show today. Here we are at the at KZYX with our show, The Truth About Money. We've got a wonderful show. Actually, I think this one must be one of our better shows to date. It's about blood for oil, and we have Michael Clare, who is professor of peace and world security studies at Hampshire College, Amherst College, Smith College, Mount Holyoke, and the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. He is also a correspondent for The Nation and the author of Resource Wars and Blood and Oil. And our second guest will be Francis Boyle, professor of international law at the University of Illinois and the author of Breaking All the Rules and Destroying the World Order. First of all, let me say good morning to my co-host. How are you, Jay?
Doing good. Busy.
All right. I want you to jump right in with our guest this morning. You know a lot. You've seen a lot. You have many of the same concerns that I do, and we're very lucky to have our two guests. And I really want to pick apart this whole blood for oil issue, and in particular the invasion of Georgia by Russia, and how the United States provoked that conflict, and how we made probably every possible mistake you can make in foreign policy leading up to that invasion.
It depends on what side of the fence you sit on, because from the Bush administration's perspective, we made every right decision, just like we have with every other foreign country we've invaded and installed a puppet government. So the Georgia ploy is a great example of the Bush administration at work, as well as the Poland missile installation that's going on right now. So this is all a little tight on the gate, but this is another example of the Bush administration at work.
Yes, it is, and we're going to let our guests speak to that. Before we move on, just wanted to just do a little market recap, and then I have a news item on Senator McCain I want to read, which ties in perfectly with the subject of blood for oil. Today in the news, of course, the bad economic news. The bad economic news continues. Inflation is at its highest pace in 24 years. Unemployment is up. The markets are down. I've been hearing a lot lately that I've been very hard on pension managers and other institutional managers that, how can you make money in this market when all the news is bad and the markets are down? Well, I have a friend who works for Harvard Capital Management, which is the endowment for Harvard University. And Harvard University made 23% on their portfolio last year, 23%. And they're a big fund. They actually made $7.9 billion on a fund that's like 30 or 40 billion. So their achievement is extraordinary. Not just that insofar as they return 23%, but because they're such a behemoth, they're so big, to be that adroit and that skillful. When you're commanding a battleship or an aircraft carrier instead of a small dinghy or a small sailboat is really special. But it goes to the point. It goes to the point I've been making on a lot of shows that you can make money in these markets. Harvard Capital Management did it, and if anyone out there doesn't believe it, they can look it up. 23%, $7.9 billion in a bear market. I'd like to read this little news item that I saw yesterday on Bloomberg. The author is Hans Nickel, and it ties in for the blood for oil theme because the United States, often when it's fighting its wars, is really misplaces its goals and its priorities and its strategic objectives. I'm a baby boomer. The Vietnam War was the defining event in my generation. 55,000 Americans dead, millions and millions of Vietnamese dead. And for what? We said we were fighting communism at the time. Well, I'm going to read you the story about Senator McCain that appeared in Bloomberg and who his biggest supporters are. His biggest supporters are his former captors, the correctional guards and what have you at the Hanoi Hilton, back in the 1960s and 70s when McCain was a prisoner of war. His biggest supporters are now the most rabid free market capitalists probably in the world, and they're some of McCain's biggest supporters. So this flip-flop, this ironic flip-flop of what we think our goals are in the world is sad, it's tragic, it's bloody, And it continues to this day with our misplaced objectives in the Middle East. Let me just recap the story for a second, Jay. This was a story that appeared in Bloomberg yesterday. Hans Nichols was the reporter, and it is so poignant, I almost want to cover this in its entirety. Lee Van Lua, the first North Vietnamese that Lieutenant Commander John McCain encountered in 1967, said that he greeted the American aviator with the biggest kitchen knife he could find at the time. McCain had just been shot down, and he was the first one to rush out there to basically to capture him. But he'd now like to welcome McCain back to Vietnam as President of the United States. And Lee Van Lua isn't alone. The former prisoner of war McCain has some unlikely supporters in Vietnam, a country that he bombed 23 times. Like Lee Van Lua, many Vietnamese are cheering for the self-confessed air pirate, absolving McCain, the bomber, and embracing the senator who pushed to normalize diplomatic relations with Vietnam in 1995. They love the man who looks to the future, said